In our journey exploring haunted locations, we've passed through many mansions steeped in family tragedy. But today, we step into a place I'm sure would make anyone's hair stand on end, whether it's haunted or not. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Nestled in the peaceful Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia in the small town of Weston stands a colossal architectural structure, looming like a stone behemoth. Stretching nearly 1,300 feet in length on a 600-acre lot, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, TALA, was once a symbol of reform in mental health treatment. But that's the story of the past. Looking through the lens of modern medicine, this place was no less brutal than the medieval asylums where patients were chained to walls, nearly naked and treated like animals. Opened in 1864 at the height of the American Civil War, this place witnessed 130 years of operation, holding pain, despair, barbaric treatments, and countless deaths. When the final doors closed in 1994, what remained within the endless corridors and decaying rooms? The answer, according to thousands of witnesses, is spirits unable to move on, making this one of the most heavily haunted locations not just in West Virginia, but in the entire United States. Today, join me as we delve deep into the abyss of madness, searching for shards of sane truth hidden within one of America's most infamous haunted destinations. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. This helps YouTube recommend more fascinating haunted stories to you and motivates us to continue exploring these chilling mysteries. Now take a deep breath and prepare yourself. We are about to step through the gates of Trans-Allegheny. To understand why Trans-Allegheny became a vessel for so much suffering, we need to look back at the historical context of mental health treatment. For much of human history, those with mental illness were often considered possessed by demons, punished by gods, or simply nuisances to be removed from society. Ancient treatments were incredibly barbaric, from drilling holes in skulls, trephination, to release evil spirits, bloodletting to balance bodily humors, to chaining, starving, and beating them in filthy madhouses. Asylums were essentially places to isolate the abnormal from society's view, like sweeping dirt under a rug. However, in the mid-19th century, a wave of reform began to emerge. Leading this movement was Dorothea Dix, a tireless social activist. She traveled across America, documenting the horrific conditions and inhumane treatment in asylums. Her reports shocked the public and pushed for new laws to improve the care of the mentally ill. Thanks to her efforts, many new mental institutions were built with the actual goal of treatment and care, not just confinement. Within this context, an architect and psychiatrist named Thomas Story Kirkbride introduced a new design philosophy known as the Kirkbride Plan. Kirkbride believed that the living environment directly impacted mental health. He argued that patients needed to live in spacious, sunlit areas close to nature, with opportunities for light labor to aid recovery. The typical Kirkbride design featured a massive central building with two long linear wings extending symmetrically on either side, like bat wings. Patient rooms were arranged along long corridors, ensuring each room had windows for light and fresh air. These institutions were often built on large plots of land with their own farms and gardens, allowing for self-sufficiency and therapeutic labor. The goal was to create an environment of moral treatment, a peaceful and dignified sanctuary where patients could heal. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is one of the most typical and majestic examples of the Kirkbride Plan. Looking at the original designs and intentions, it's hard not to feel hopeful. It was a beautiful dream, a deeply humane effort to change how society treated its most vulnerable. But as we shall see, this dream quickly turned into a nightmare. The very architecture designed for airiness and light eventually became a colossal prison where thousands were trapped in despair. It's a tragedy of good intentions crushed by harsh reality. Construction of Trans-Allegheny began in 1858. The building was constructed using locally quarried blue sandstone, and skilled stonemasons from Germany and Ireland were hired for the complex work. Initially, prison labor was even used in the construction. However, construction had barely begun when the American Civil War erupted in 1861, halting all activity. The grounds and partially built structures became an unwilling battlefield, repeatedly occupied by both Union and Confederate armies. Confederate raiders even stole building materials. A notable incident occurred right at the war's start concerning funds allocated for the hospital's construction. The government of Virginia, having seceded with the Confederacy, wanted to seize about 30,000 in gold coins from a local bank to fund the war effort. However, the Union Army acted faster. Under Colonel Erastus Bernard Tyler, they marched into Weston, pretending to arrest Confederate sympathizers, but actually seizing the gold. This money was then sent to Wheeling and became the startup treasury for the restored government of Virginia, loyal to the Union, and subsequently for the newly formed state of West Virginia in 1863. Construction resumed with difficulty during the war, but the grounds were still frequently occupied and raided. The final raid in 1864 depleted all food and clothing reserves intended for the incoming patients. Amazingly, despite the chaos of war and severe shortages, the hospital officially opened its doors to its first patients in October 1864, initially named the Weston Hospital for the Insane. Construction continued after the war, with the 200-foot central clock tower completed in 1871 and a separate ward for black patients added in 1873. The entire massive structure was finally completed only in 1881, becoming the second largest hand-cut masonry building in the world, surpassed only by the Kremlin in Moscow. I always wonder, was building and opening a mental hospital amidst the turmoil of war, on grounds repeatedly invaded and stained by violence, a bad omen? Did the negative energy of war, occupation, and looting seep into these stones even before the first patients brought their suffering here? Perhaps the grim fate of Trans-Allegheny was sealed from its tumultuous beginnings. Initially, life at Trans-Allegheny might have been relatively decent, at least by 19th century standards. The hospital was designed for ample space, sunlight, and had over 600 acres for patients to roam. Aiming for self-sufficiency, patients had opportunities to learn trades like farming, gardening, and sewing. It was an environment meant to provide peace and dignity to the patients, just as Kirkbride dreamed. But that dream quickly shattered. By its completion in 1881, the hospital already housed over 700 patients, nearly 3 times its original design capacity of 250. This number continued to skyrocket. 1:600 by 1938, almost 800 by 1949, peaking at around 2,400 to 2,600 patients in the 1950s. The place became horrendously overcrowded. This overcrowding was partly due to the incredibly vague and easily abused definition of mental illness at the time. People could be admitted for the most absurd reasons: asthma, laziness, selfishness, novel reading, family disputes, jealousy, political excitement, drinking bad whiskey, grief, even imaginary female trouble. Men could easily commit their wives if they felt the wife was disobedient or simply wanted freedom to pursue other relationships. It's horrifying to think how many completely sane individuals were trapped and slowly wasted away within these walls due to social prejudices or personal conflicts. Their sense of injustice and helplessness surely contributed to the heavy, haunting atmosphere here. The consequences of overcrowding were inevitable. The hospital became deficient in everything: understaffed, short on beds, lacking resources. Sanitation conditions deteriorated. Buildings fell into disrepair. Patients were crammed together, 4 or 5 people in a room meant for one, forced to sleep in hallways or freezing rooms without furniture. In such harsh and suffocating conditions, violence inevitably erupted. patients attacked each other and staff. Horrific murders occurred right on the premises. There's a story of two patients attempting to hang another patient with a bedsheet, and when that failed, they placed the victim's head under a metal bedpost and repeatedly jumped on the bed until he was dead. A nurse was reported missing, and months later her decomposed body was found under a stairwell. The corridors once designed for tranquility were now filled with screams, beatings, and fear. Trans-Allegheny had literally become a madhouse. The brutality came not only from the overcrowding and patient violence, but also from the treatment supplied here. The first half of the 20th century was a period of brutal and unscientific psychiatric experimentation. Trans-Allegheny was no exception. Insulin coma therapy, popular in the 1930s, this method believed inducing hypoglycemic comas could reset the brain. However, side effects included permanent brain damage, prolonged comas, and death. Metrazole therapy induced violent seizures in schizophrenic patients, hoping to alleviate symptoms. The result was often fractured bones and torn muscles. Lobotomy, perhaps the most infamous and inhumane method. In the early 1950s, West Virginia conducted the West Virginia Lobotomy Project at Trans-Allegheny, involving Dr. Walter Freeman, the father of the ice pick lobotomy. Over 4,000 lobotomies were performed here. Doctors used an instrument resembling an ice pick, inserted through the eye socket into the brain, and scrambled it to sever connections in the frontal lobe. The aim was to calm the patient. The best outcome was severe loss of motor function, cognition, and drastic personality changes. The worst outcome was a vegetative state or death. It's chilling to think thousands of brains were brutally violated right here. Electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, also widely used. Hydrotherapy involved submerging patients in cold water baths for hours or tightly wrapping them in cold sheets. Use of heavy sedatives, such as chlorpromazine, thorazine, to keep patients in a near catatonic, easily manageable state. Restraints and cages patients deemed uncontrollable were often locked in cages or tightly strapped to chairs, mad chair. Patients at Trans-Allegheny faced these therapies day after day for years, sometimes decades. Many did not survive. It's estimated that thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands, died during the hospital's 130 years of operation. Those whose bodies were unclaimed by family were buried in the hospital's private cemetery on the grounds. 130 years of accumulated pain, repressed anger, and cruel neglect have turned the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum into a hotspot for wandering spirits. Some might just be faint echoes of the past, but others, according to those who have encountered them, remain as dangerous and full of hatred as they were in life. When the final doors closed in 1994, Trans-Allegheny didn't just leave behind a massive, decaying building. It left a space heavy with negative energy, a place where suffering, anger, despair, and violence had deeply seeped into every stone, every iron bar. Abandoned for years, the site became a realm of neglect and whispered ghost stories. But then a new chapter began when Trans-Allegheny was reborn as a historical and paranormal tourist destination. And as the public started exploring the past, the former residents seemed to awaken too. Their presence, the imprisoned souls of Trans-Allegheny, became clearer and more terrifying than ever before. Before meeting the specific spirits, we need to ask, what makes this place such an intense psychic hotspot? The answer lies in the convergence of many horrific factors. Extreme and prolonged suffering, 130 years of operation under horrific overcrowding, terrible living conditions, disease, and neglect created a massive reservoir of misery and despair. Thousands lived and died in extreme loneliness and pain here. Brutality and torture. Barbaric treatments like lobotomies, shock therapy, insulin comas, bloodletting, ice baths, and the mad chair not only caused physical agony but destroyed minds, leaving incredibly negative energy imprints. Violence and untimely deaths. Overcrowding and understaffing led to uncontrolled violence. Patients attacked each other, even killing one another. Such sudden and violent deaths are often believed to create restless or vengeful spirits, imprisonment and loss of freedom. The nature of a mental institution where people were stripped of their freedom, sometimes unjustly, creates a powerful sense of imprisonment that can persist even after death. Thousands of unmarked graves. Patients who died without family to claim them were buried in the asylum's private cemetery. This neglect and anonymity are common factors in hauntings. To me, Trans-Allegheny isn't just haunted by a few individual spirits. It's like a massive psychic wound for an entire community of people rejected and forgotten by society. The negative energy accumulated over more than a century from thousands of individuals has turned the place into a literal haunting entity. It's no wonder it's considered one of the scariest places in America. Among the thousands of spirits believed to still roam Trans-Allegheny, about 8 appear regularly and are the most well-known. Each spirit carries its own story and personality, ranging from gentle to extremely dangerous. Lily, the tragic little ghost, perhaps the most famous and beloved spirit at Tala. Lily's story is heartbreaking. Her mother was a patient admitted after the Civil War, unaware she was pregnant. She died giving birth to Lily inside the hospital, and the baby was raised by the nurses. Lily never knew the world outside these cold stone walls. She died of pneumonia at just 9 years old. Today, Lily's spirit is said to still play in her former room. Visitors often leave toys for her. Many have reported seeing toys move on their own. There's a touching story of a female visitor who chatted with a little girl who seemed lost from the tour group, trying to persuade her to rejoin them. But when the woman turned back, the girl had vanished. Lily is a poignant reminder of the innocent lives trapped and extinguished within this harsh system. Elizabeth, the dedicated nurse. Not much information is available about Elizabeth other than she was once a nurse here. Her spirit is said to still walk the halls, as if continuing her duty of caring for patients even after death. Her presence usually brings a sense of peace rather than fear. Jesse, or James, the spirit in the bathtub. This spirit is believed to be that of a male patient who passed away from a heart attack in the bathtub of a specific restroom. It's said his spirit still lingers there. Not all spirits at Tala are gentle. This place is also home to entities carrying the brutality and hatred from their past lives. As mentioned, there were 2 patients who brutally murdered another. The spirits of these 2 killers are believed to still exist in the form of dark shadows. Their presence brings an extreme cold, drains the energy from the room, and makes those nearby feel unwell and nauseous. They are the embodiment of the brutality that once occurred here. Slewfoot, the mysterious killer. This is one of the most frightening spirits. No one knows the true identity of Slewfoot, only that in life, he was a savage murderer who often killed his victims in an upstairs bathroom. His spirit is said to still roam the upper floors, and people are warned to avoid him at all costs. The parallel existence of gentle spirits like Lily and dangerous entities like Slewfoot shows the complexity of the spiritual world at Tala. It is not just a place of sadness, but also a place of unresolved anger and violence. This makes exploring here more unpredictable and potentially riskier. Besides the spirits with known identities, Trans-Allegheny is filled with other supernatural phenomena, occurring in various areas throughout the vast grounds. Shadow figures. This is a very common phenomenon, not limited to the spirits of the 2 murderers. Many visitors and staff have seen dark shadows flitting through hallways, lurking in dark corners, or even passing through walls. They bring a feeling of being watched and uneasy. Sounds are an integral part of the Tala experience. Heavy footsteps echo in empty corridors. Doors slam shut suddenly without any wind. Whispers, eerie giggles, agonizing screams, heavy breathing, and whistling emanate from empty rooms. Ancient organ music is sometimes heard. These sounds are often captured on audio recorders and considered evidence of EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Furthermore, many people have reported feeling pushed, having their clothes pulled, being scratched or touched by unseen hands. Rebecca Jordan, part of the family that currently owns the hospital, recounted feeling someone grab her shoulder tightly while leading a tour. Another guide spoke of an intense burning sensation on his back, later discovering a large red scratch mark that lasted a week. Ryan Bergara from the Channel Watcher even had equipment attached to his belt pulled by an invisible force. Toys moving on their own in Lily's room is a prime example. Balloons in another little girl's room also swayed when asked. Investigative devices like REM pods, detecting electromagnetic field and temperature changes, frequently trigger when investigators attempt communication with spirits. Flashlights are also said to often flicker on command. A guide named Ryan mentioned that visitors sometimes report seeing apparitions of themselves or of Ryan walking outside the grounds through the windows. This is an extremely rare and unsettling phenomenon. Another guide recounted seeing wet footprints, both adult and child-sized, leading from the shower area down a hallway on a hot summer day, even though no one had used the showers. Notable haunted hotspots include the bathroom where Jesse James passed away, the room where patient Dean was murdered by the other two, the back room, known for cold spots and quiet cries, the isolation cells, where violent and desperate energy is very strong. Physical attacks often occur and pleas of "get me out of here" are heard. The Civil War section, although renovated and appearing more pleasant, this area still has significant activity. A guide's daughter captured many eerie photos here. The fourth floor. Besides the child spirits, this is also a highly active area for adult spirits, and communication via equipment often happens here. The stories become even more terrifying when told by those who have worked or investigated at Tala. Tour guides who are exposed to the energy of this place daily often have profound personal experiences. One guide who worked there for a decade shared many stories. Besides the scratch on his back, he also told of using a spirit box, a device scanning radio frequencies for voices, with a colleague. After hearing only static for a while, the box suddenly uttered a clear word: evil. Immediately after, his colleague frantically wanted to leave, explaining she had just heard shuffling footsteps by the doorway and asked if the spirit making the noise was nice, to which the box replied, evil. Another time, while leading a tour, he suddenly felt dizzy and disoriented, simultaneously feeling the burning sensation on his back intensify. It was after this event that the scratch appeared. He also recounted seeing an old man on the second floor while leading a group of elderly guests back to their bus. Thinking it was a lost guest, he called out to him, but the man kept walking down the hall and then vanished completely. Famous paranormal investigation shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and the YouTube channel Watcher have also visited and recorded significant evidence here. They have captured countless strange noises, whistling, heavy breathing, and even a woman's scream. The incident where Ryan Bergara's equipment was pulled is one of the clearest pieces of physical evidence caught on camera. After closing in 1994, Tala was abandoned for many years and continued to decay, even suffering damage from off-duty police officers playing paintball inside in 1999. Fortunately, in 2007, the building was purchased at auction by Joe Jordan, with the goal of preservation and restoration. Today, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum operates as a popular historical and paranormal tourist destination. Restoration efforts are funded through various tours, from daytime historical tours to 8-hour overnight ghost hunts. The site attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year from all over the world. However, turning a place that holds so much suffering into a haunted tourist attraction also raises ethical questions. Are we profiting from others' tragedies? Are the ghost hunts disrespectful to the souls who endured so much? Many people working at Tala today emphasize the importance of telling the historical story respectfully, so visitors understand the context and truth behind the ghost stories. They try to balance the element of horror entertainment with education about the history of mental health care, past mistakes, and the need for humane treatment of vulnerable individuals. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is a complex and haunting place. It is a majestic architectural landmark, a historical testament to changes in mental health awareness and treatment, and simultaneously a living hell where thousands endured unimaginable suffering. Is this place truly haunted? With the enormous amount of evidence from reliable witnesses, recording devices, and the personal experiences of visitors and staff, it's hard to deny that something unusual is happening within these walls. The spirits at Tala seem to be a mixture of many types. Residual echoes of intense emotions, trapped innocent child spirits, dedicated souls still trying to care for others, and also spirits full of hatred and violence. They are the result of 130 years of suffering, despair, and death compressed within a confined space. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, Trans-Allegheny is a place worthy of reflection. It raises questions about the nature of madness, the thin line between treatment and torture, and how a painful past can continue to haunt the present. It serves as a reminder that sometimes stone walls imprison not only bodies but also souls. Thank you for exploring the haunting story of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum with me. What do you think about this place? Which spirit gives you the most chills? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue following our journeys into the world of the mysterious and unexplained. Goodbye and see you next time.